So now that we have all of the economic reports that are supposed to come out this month out of the way, the CPI numbers and the PPI report, there's a lot to discuss today. Heading into the weekend, snipers, I made sure to give the charts some time because exactly as we predicted, we saw some volatility with the CPI numbers coming out, but then Bitcoin came back into its extremely important range above the previous weekly open at 19,000 US dollars and still below the major resistance at 19,800. Look at what happened with the CPI report, snipers. This was the most important thing that I saw here. We saw the most amount of buy volume on the Bitcoin Coinbase pairing that we've seen since Bitcoin came down to this consolidation range. And that's exactly what you want to start to see if you want to assume a reversal is in the coming short term. Just notice the amount of buy volume that came here on the Coinbase chart, which is not manipulated like the Binance chart. You can see the amount of buy volume that we had with those CPI numbers coming out was the most amount of buy volume that we've seen since the start of this consolidation. And so obviously institutions bought back down here. And now we have a more legitimate case to make that we have a potential double bottom forming. Of course, it's not the prettiest double bottom, but the fact that we got volume, that's always one of the most important confirmations. And that was what happened with the CPI report. The S&P 500 as well, it had its third largest intraday reversal move in the history of the market, indicating that the CPI report obviously had an effect. The S&P 500, we did form new yearly lows, but once again, this was the third largest intraday reversal in the history of the S&P 500. Is that not something that we could make the potential case here that we have a lower low that formed and we could start to see the S&P 500 fight to get back above the most important level right now, which would be this 20-week moving average. You can see here sitting right around that 39.15 level for the E-mini futures contract. And then if we were to just say Bitcoin is sort of correlated to the S&P 500 for Bitcoin, if we were to try to make a move above the 20-week moving average, it's now below the 200-week moving average, right around 21,400. This could be the shot for Bitcoin to make that move. What are we looking for this confirmation? Let's dive into the shorter time frames. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, snipers, if you support this content. So what you'll see here is we are back inside of this range here. So the first confirmation of upside would be above 19,800. The first confirmation of downside would be below the previous weekly open at 19,057, which will update in 2 business days, and I'll get that update out to you, snipers. But you can see we saw some volatility with the CPI report. We saw an initial sell-off, a push to the upside, but still back inside of this range. And so we might have to give this a little bit more time to play out to give us a better hint as to what the next move is. But I think the most important thing we got out of that CPI report was the fact that we saw the most amount of buy volume for Bitcoin since the start of this consolidation. And it coincides with a potential second low, potential double bottom. Bitcoin did dip right around that $18,200 level. And so could we say that we have a case of a double bottom? By the way, man, I just came out of the jacuzzi, so that's why my hair is all messed up. But the fact of the matter is Bitcoin and the CPI report, the most amount of volume since the start of this consolidation. Super important, snipers. And then revolving parts, the DXY has some bearish divergence. If you look at the MACD, I'm not going to pull it up, but what's clear right now is that we found resistance at this multi-year resistance level, 114. We've yet to continue further up. The DXY hasn't given us any specific hints just yet. The Ethereum to Bitcoin chart still above 65,000 Satoshis. The Ethereum to US dollar pairing, just like Bitcoin, remember the range is 1277 to 1440. That's the range that we're watching for Ethereum. So everything is pretty much back into place after the volatility from the CPI report. Gold selling off slightly to close the week. The NASDAQ obviously down 3% to close the week. So the NASDAQ continuing to sell off. But at some point or another, we're going to see the NASDAQ get back into correlation with the S&P 500. What's most important, though, is going to be this Bitcoin to SPY chart. We've yet to really get a strong move just yet, but it looks like there's a potential we could be starting the early signs of breaking this resistance. And so we have to continue to monitor this Bitcoin against SPY chart because it's really starting to have a cup of coffee at this major resistance level. And the first decisive break above this resistance is a hint that the Bitcoin price wants to decouple from the S&P 500 to the downside, and most importantly for the macro, it invalidates the descending triangle that Bitcoin is in with its valuation against the equity market. So smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm if you support this content, snipers. That's it for today. I'll keep you guys updated into this weekend, and until next time, snipers out.